get me help.
We were heroin addicts, detective. We don't make plans. Plans are too pretty. We got too many bumps and bruises.
这个叫每个人都心怀愿曲，但是没有一个人敢开口。
Secrets they help me keep. They're destroying me.
你想问我有没有伤害Charlie？
我也不会是第一次了。我想我们两个都是学习不起。
我可没有不见得搞的东西。
这家里的人没有一个是无辜的。
Charlie had something to hide, and you have something to hide. But you know what? It will come out.
Don't you ever tell me what I have to do.
You know, people who do this sort of thing, they don't stop. They can't. Not until they die. Or somebody else does.
Well, I probably should be.
So, sorry, Shirley, you raised your hand earlier.
Just a question around, like a couple of questions. One is how your audience has it been developing, or where have you been reaching out to get your audience? Because I love the authenticity that you're striving for. More importantly, I think it's really important that you're willing to take the lid off some of the Pandora's box and shine the light in some of the darker corners, because it resonates with me. The themes of sexual abuse within families, that's not just a Chinese problem, that's a problem that exists right across the board. And maybe sometimes I think, well, when you're talking about the Chinese families, when you think about a time when the sojourners were here and so many males came alone, that exacerbated the problem, or may have exacerbated the problem. And I don't know if you'll go back in history at all to look at maybe some of the developments that have led to where we are today. I'm a little puzzled. So okay, numbers, audience numbers. That was the first question. The second is maybe other dark corners you're planning to shine some lights in, and thirdly, whether part of the authenticity ties back to some of the roots of the migration. Because you've got a family where it's wealthy. You've got the mother who's Mandarin speaking, but the daughter is very Cantonese speaking. So I guess how do you tie that together and how that works within the family? Because I'm totally ignorant. I've watched this. I've watched the trailer. I haven't watched season 1. Pardon me, everybody, for asking a question. I haven't watched season 1. But I guess I'm trying to understand better what drives you and your cast and your writers to see whether or not where the authenticity, how it resonates with you and how deeply you're going to delve.
The Mandarin family started with the spelling TSE, like the Cantonese romanization of the family name, and we talked that how do we make it so that, you know, because there were also a lot of Mandarin families who came here in the 60s, 70s, 80s, especially after the, 10-month square thing, and also to become a development tycoon, it takes generations to accumulate that kind of wealth. So we make it so that it's mainland is also we also think about how to market this show down the road, right? When you have obviously the Chinese media market, it's big, so it's a part of it. It's a business decision to have that name instead TSE, spelled is a pinyin romanization XIE. It may sound small to a lot of people, like, who cares, a Thompson, with a P and without a P. Well, but to people who are member of the community, you can tell instantly, oh, he's a mainlander, he's a Hong Kong Chinese, or he's Taiwanese spelling, because Taiwanese spelling would be H-S-I-E-H, which I can't pronounce except BC. And I'm just putting your leg. And that's why we have, and also a lot of the Canadian-born kids, like Alfina's generation, even that you have a Mandarin background or mainland background, but because of the mid-90 immigration waves of them are mostly well-off Hong Kong middle class or well-off Hong Kong immigrants. They hang together, they form their little bubble. And so to be able to hang with them, you kind of almost have to speak the lingua franca of the Chinese community, which is Cantonese. And also the Hong Kong popular culture during the 80s and 90s was still quite prevalent, right? So it's cool to be able to sing Ken Top, Leslie Chong and Alan Tam and, Anita Mui, I think Helen and I nodding our heads off. Those were the idols growing up, not just in Hong Kong, but in mainland China as well. The Hong Kong culture was all the rage, right? So that's why a lot of kids born and raised here can speak both Cantonese and Mandarin, right? Which justify Anna's character being able to do that. And I got asked a question many times, so that's why I sound so prepared. And in terms of the subject matter, you're very right. It's not just a Chinese problem; it's a human problem, right? And we try not to say, because when I said, oh, I self-censor myself, they said, oh, you're trying to put Chinese in a bad light. I had people who confronted me. They said, why do you put your Chinese in such a dark manner? Why don't you make us all heroes? Well, I said, we have heroes, we have, not so, great characters. It's just, I said, Chinese people are like all people. We're all twisted and we all, just like everybody else. So we don't want to exotify our own human condition to what we're different. Well, no, we're not, right? You look at Sopranos. I mean, that's the first show that you have a gangster who goes see a psychiatrist. It's never happened before, right? But he became such a iconic character, not just in American culture, but in terms of filmmaking, right? And character building, it's second to none. And I think that show trailblazed a lot for us.
I heard the mention of telling Asian stories in mainstream media. It's almost like you are going beyond that, right? Because the linguistic frame that you work with is the one that's common. It is mainstream. It's just that there's been this long-term disconnect between so-called mainstream media and actually representing what is mainstream Canada, especially in this part of Canada. Around the dinner table with my extended family, right? We have 3 dialects, Southern Chinese dialects. We have French and we have English, right? To me, that's mainstream. So what you're doing on this show is actually just reflecting what actually happens in life rather than a sort of weird bubble of denial within media, which kind of creates this alternative reality that's sort of disconnected from what we actually live. And so it goes beyond just telling Asian stories and starts telling, in a sense, Canadian stories, right? Just stories about what goes on here. And I'll throw in an interest. I just taught a 4th-year course on multiculturalism policy in Canada and its evolution. Mm-hmm. And so we had these debates about what is Canadian identity, right? And I think by the end of the term, I convinced them we don't really necessarily need a fixed Canadian identity. What we need to do is identify with values that are so crucial to the country. And interestingly, in 2015, there was a very good survey done about, just asking people on the street, what is a Canadian? How do you identify? And in the top 3 was, we're multicultural, which is a kind of a non-answer when you're asking for an identity. It's, our identity is the acceptance of multiple identities. That's who we are. And I think your show is going a long way to reflecting what a lot of people actually think. There are always nut bars out there. And of course, to the south, we have Mr. Trump. There are always strange people out there, but I think most normal people accept that. That's life.
I'm just remembering that I've been in the industry as an actor for about 11 years, and in the very beginning, I've done a few jobs of being the Asian character. And it was literally playing a caricature of Chinese, and with a very thick accent. I had a lot of fun doing it, the clapping, it's like, hurry, hurry, or whatever I did. And it was great, it was fun, and everyone laughed. And I was like, is this all there is? And a part of me was humbled, but a part of me accepted that this is the industry I chose to be in at this time. This is what's available to me. There were no Asian roles that I remember very much. There were few and far between. actually being able to show what it means to actually be Asian, which means all these things about being human. And so in this show, I get to, because I'm playing the same generation that I grew up in, so all these questions about why does she speak Cantonese and Mandarin, and the people that she hangs with, this is backstory of why she can. It allowed me to tap into who I really was growing up, and the parts of me that I actually denied and was ashamed of and suppressed. I grew up I was born in Vancouver and I grew up here. And I wanted to be white, so I was very embarrassed to be Chinese for a very long time. And I did hang out with a lot of Asian people in high school, but there's that high school. So coming full circle now is like being able to me, this show means more than just a job, being able to tap into my language growing up. And my mom's really happy that I'm speaking more Cantonese and Mandarin now, and teaching my daughter this as well. She's a mixed race. And being able to just actually go back to the parts of myself that I shamelessly hid away from myself, because I wanted to fit into what it meant to be a Canadian. So now I get to actually tell a story of being human as an Asian in Canada. So that to me makes me extremely proud to a depth that I can't really, say beyond feeling. So to me, it's more than just a show right now, and it has been. But as I said before, moving forward with it, moving into second season, who knows where it's going to go? It's opening up so much more to me in this nation than just a show, and I'm excited to see all the doors that it's actually going to open up for all of us.
Elfina's experience, because I remember when I had sushi with her and Simu in Toronto. And Simu had a similar experience. He tried to fit in, tried to be white, and he kind of disowned his culture. But with folks like BC Lee and Elfina, they don't seem to have that baggage. They're very proud of their heritage, right? So I'm gonna let them speak to that, but I'm just sharing my observation. And to bring that in together, it's actually very telling of what we're trying to achieve here, right? Their struggle is because they've been here for a long time, and all the prejudice and injustice that the older generations of Chinese Canadian had to weather through. Whereas with first generation BC Fiona, who were partly educated in Taiwan and mainland, but also partly educated in the West, and in an area that the economy and the might of Greater China is growing up. It's getting stronger. At the end of it, I mean, excuse me for being blunt. A big fact of it is that Chinese market is huge now. So it's also convenient for funders, for organizations to fund projects like this. We can't solely get a project done by waving the multiculturalism flag. We can't. It's just a fact of life. Is that, well, this show has a market, so we can show. We started China, we started Hong Kong. We can make some dough out of it. I mean, that's the first. Is there viability? Because I was involved with quite a few Chinese Canadian projects trying to get funding from Telefilm, and we were being told, Britain, nobody's going to watch this. Who's going to watch a Chinese Canadian Buddhist independent movie? Nobody. We were told. And the room was just that quiet, and there was so much rage almost. And I said something really immature at that time. So we pay taxes too. How come we don't get funded? And then the person on the line is, oh, that's not the point, right? But what is the point?